Hello and welcome to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, November 28th, 2017. As always, we are coming live from the W4CY studios here in West Palm Beach, and I hope everyone's week is doing well. This week, I am feeling healthier. If you've been following my social media, I am starting to feel a little bit back to my normal self. I was in the hospital Friday. They had to give me an IV and everything, and all of a sudden, all the pressure went away. It's amazing what supplements can do sometimes, especially if you accidentally take too much. And so things are returning back to normal for me. I'm sweating. If you're watching the video on Periscope or on the YouTube channel, I'm sweating. That's because, I just got in a brand new 2018 Mikan DC41 Supermax U-Trip. Oh my God, it is an amazing bat. I love it. I'm like a little girl in a candy store. I'm so excited. And it was all thank you to my friend Andrew, who is an amazing friend who helps me out. He works for a sporting place or something, and he got me a great deal on a bat. So I'm super excited for that, and I'm so thankful for him. And we were just at the batting cages for the first time in 3 weeks. I did a little bit of exercising. I wanted to see how much my body has, because I've been resting, and it's hard for me to rest. I'm one of those that I do take time, I do take downtime and everything like that, but when I rest for 3 weeks nonstop, where I just lay on the couch and not do anything, it is hard for me just to not do anything at all for 3 weeks. So it was quite the lesson, I gotta say. And I also treated myself out to a meal prepping bag. How many of you do meal prepping? I brought it here. It's here at the studio with me because I'm bringing my meals again everywhere, because when I was in shape and I was really healthy, I never ate out. I never did anything. I always brought my food everywhere, and I prepared everything. And I got an amazing bag on Amazon for $35. Normally it was $85, and it's amazing. It's got 4 compartments. It holds 2 large shakes, 3 trays, and even an area for non-temperature food area too. So it is amazing. I love Amazon. Do you guys love Amazon? Because I do. So I'm treating myself. I deserve it, and I'm treating myself for once. So Chad, how was your week this week? How's everything going?
It was good. Well, it was Thanksgiving, right? Am I right?
Yes. What did you do? Did you do any gigs?
No gigs this week. We were planned on doing it Thursday at Aruba Cafe, and then we had some back and forth with the manager, and we said, we need it off, and can you cover us? And she got us covered. So we took the whole week off. It was beautiful. Went to some family, played with the kids, ate some good organic meals from Whole Foods.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they didn't do any cooking.
Okay.
They just ordered it from Whole Foods.
That's the best
Warm
way,
it up and serve it. Now get out.
Absolutely.
It was good. How was your Thanksgiving?
Mine was great. I went over to my friend Andrew and Britt's house. This is the first time I actually went to somebody's house in over 15 years, so I was kind of excited. Usually I spend the holidays alone, which that's not a big deal to me. I'm a loner like that. But it was nice to see someone else's family, spend some time, watch some football games. But I left a little bit early because I wasn't feeling too well after all the food.
Right.
You know how that goes.
Yes, I do. I can relate.
But did your turkey and everything was all from Whole Foods? It's all organic. They have some good stuff, don't they?
I was very, very surprised how good it tasted.
Yes.
Because I was thinking in my mind, I was like, man, when was this stuff made? Like 2 weeks ago, and they're probably frozen and sent, and But it was amazing. It was great tasting. So thumbs up to Whole Foods on the organic turkey and all the fixings. It was excellent.
I'm so glad you had a wonderful holiday. You deserve it.
But the best thing about it was the kids. There's nothing cooler than kids, They're just little free spirits out there running around. They don't care what you think or anyone else thinks. It's just
yes.
The kids are so cool. So nice to spend some time with them.
Wouldn't that be amazing if adults acted like that too? Free spirit, where we don't care what other people think.
Right. At what point in life do we cross over to this dull adulthood?
I don't know.
We lose our inner kid. Well, yeah, there you go. Keep searching for your inner kid. That's my advice for the day.
Absolutely.
Back to you.
Thank you, Chad. All right, if you'd like to give us a call, you can call us at 561-623-9421. Web chat us on the W4CY.com website. Download the W4CY radio app. And as always, we are on Periscope right now under Transcendental 13. We are videoing for our YouTube archive at youtube.com/Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. That will be up soon. Well, tonight's topic is a very touchy one, as always. Don't we always do touchy topics here? But this is something that a lot of people are interested in, because if you saw my social media, the title is The Light Beyond Life. And this is always the biggest question. What happens to us when we transition from this life to the next? Where do we go? What happens? You know, for many of us, we use the word death. And death just sounds... It just has this low resonance, low vibration, this very harsh tone to it, doesn't it? It's death. It sounds like the end. And in our society, we look at death or transition. I always call it transition. We always look at transition as and a lot of people in a negative way. It's such a painful thing. We look at this as an experience that it's like at the end, we're losing people, we lose our lives, we lose all these things, and everything is always a tragedy. But, you know, most of us, we don't know where we go. And I think it's the fear of the unknown of what happens to us. Is there really a God out there? Is there two gods or goddesses? Is there a ball of energy? What is going on out in the universe? Do we really get punished for the things we do? Or is there, you know, someone out there or something out there that's so compassionate that, you know, forgives everything? Or is there truly thing as such sin or anything? Well, my life being a spirit guide and a psychic medium, I have had the very fortunate opportunity to communicate with many, and I did it professionally too for many years, with spirits on the other side and people on the other side, including even my own father. And I wanted to do this because if you've been listening to the show and you're fairly new, I have taught you a bunch of shows. If you've listened to a lot of them, I've taught you a lot of things where this will make sense to you, or at least it'll make sense a little bit more to you. And with this coming up, we have our 5th year anniversary from coming up on December 8th from when my dad passed away and transitioned into the next life. And his body gave in from kidney failure due to diabetes. My dad passed away, like I said, on December 8th of 2012. And what was weird about it was he was going for his 3rd open heart surgery. Obviously, my dad didn't take care of himself too well, and had a lot of weight on him. And he looked at it and he had to say, it was this constant battle with him where he knew he needed to lose weight, he knew he needed to do all these things, but our habits, our conditionings, and all these things, they break us sometimes, and a lot of times we succumb to us. And sadly for my dad, he succumbed to this because he made it through the surgery, and while he was in IC, his kidneys just quit on him. And if you study medicine and if you understand, most people do not make it through a 3rd open heart surgery, especially, and the number one cause of diabetes, death to diabetes, is kidney failure. And so, the odds were against him. 6 weeks before my dad passed away, my grandfather came to me. I was laying in my bed and my grandfather came to me and he said, "Raina, we're coming for your dad." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Okay." And he said, "I need you to get across a message to your father. We need to fix and heal from the situation that happened to us before my grandfather transitioned, before he comes over. Because let me tell you something, people. It is more important to resolve our issues over here than it is when we go over there. Because when we go over there, and I'll get into this a little bit later, when we go over there, it's easy for us to say, okay, I know what I did. Yes, I know it was my fault too, your fault too. Who cares? It doesn't matter. We learn from it, blah, blah, blah. It's so easy because we shed the human ego. We shed the emotions, we shed the fear, the anger, the animosity, we shed all these things when we go over there. And so and we understand, and I'm going to get into that too, why we understand all this stuff. But after our life review, we understand why we did the things we did and why these certain things were in our lives. And so when we're here and we're over there, my grandfather understood that my dad has to learn to resolve this with him before he transitions over. So when my grandfather told me this, he sat there and said, okay, and flashed it in my head, because I don't hear them as like you're hearing my voice. I see pictures in my head, and then I get sensations. I very rarely hear audience. Sometimes I do, but it's mostly all pictures in my head and feelings. And he said, he's like, we have to resolve. And I just looked at him like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. You want me to resolve this? And I said, okay. So I called my father, and my dad and I told him, grandpa came to me, he wants to resolve this, blah, blah. And my dad just flipped out. I mean, he got so angry. He's like, he screwed me over. He did this, blah, 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 the blame game and everything. And I understood why my father was upset. But, my grandfather, when we're over there, believe it or not, we still are working on our issues that we have here in the human world. So if we fight, if we argue, if we have unresolved emotions or unresolved situations with someone, as my grandfather and my dad did, even though my grandfather is over there on the other side, they still come and work with us and work through those issues with the person that's still here. Because remember that in our spiritual contracts, we've had a show or several shows on spiritual contracts. In our spiritual contracts, those are the type of bonds that we have. And just because one person passes and one person is still living doesn't mean that contract has been resolved. And so when I said that to my dad said, is there anything else you want to tell me? And I said, nope, nothing else. And I knew at that point, my dad knew that I knew that he was not going to make it through the surgery. Because why? Because our loved ones do come for us. They start appearing around us when it's our time to transition. And why does that happen? Because it allows us, because we have different energies. You have to remember that this life is such a low dense vibration. The other side is such a high vibration. And so have you ever gone to like a Six Flags Great America or something where you're on the ground and you're standing there, you feel fine, you get on a whirly ride that spins you around all over, and then you get off and you're all messed up and discombobulated and everything? Well, it's similar to that. When someone transitions so fastly, those vibrations have to start to be able to adjust to us. And especially when we're sick, and this is why, and we're going to get into this later as well, this is why like suicides and everything sometimes are cocooned for a little while. It's not that they're punished or set in limbo or anything like we believe that they are, or sent to a very bad place. They're cocooned for a little while because the vibration of changing from one dimension to the other happens so quickly that they have to even back out that energy. And so he knew. And I can guarantee you that my dad, he was not he was not happy. He was not happy with my grandfather and everything. And after this all happened, my mom and sister and everybody said, I know you knew, because they were planning on retirement and all this stuff. And I kept saying, Mom, Nikki, and I was like, don't plan a retirement, just wait, blah, blah, blah. And they saw that there's this energy around me that I was just constantly telling all these plans after the surgery to halt. And later on, and so my dad, had a hard time with my grandfather and this idea. Why? Because his belief system created the fear. His belief system that our ideas of people and life are supposed to be a certain way. And this is why I talk about belief systems so much on a show, because when your belief systems will create all the chaos. And I want you to understand, I know a lot of you are going to have a hard time with some some of the things I'm going to say, and that's okay. That is okay. I'm up for the challenge and everything, and I know it takes time for the seeds to plant and cultivate, but eventually you will understand this. And so our belief systems create the fear, and they create the heartache, and they create the emotional attachment. And what are the things that we're attached to? Life itself, right? We are attached to life. We are attached to this idea and this fear sometimes overcomes us about death. I mean, if we look at it and I ask you, how many of us are afraid to transition? How many of us are afraid if something happens? How many of us would say yes? And a lot of people who have had no experience or close calls or near-death experiences, you would usually say, I'm not afraid. Some people would say, yes, I'm totally afraid of it. And you know what? And this brings up, when I was in the hospital, and this happened with my heart and everything like that, I'm not afraid to transition. I'm not, because I understand what's over there. But I, most of my life, honestly, didn't care what happened. I always didn't. I was like, hey, if I do, I just end back up over here. If I stay, that's great. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. And I realized something about myself this time, that I actually now do care to be here. And not like I never did, but before I was always more passive about it. I was always more, like I said, if it happens, it happens. It doesn't, because I knew where we were going. But the emotional attachments, or the attachments to our ideas, are what is the hardest thing about the transition to life. Because when we have transition in any form, when we are transitioning from one thing to another, what is funerals and all that stuff about? It's usually for the people, right? They have a hard time with the disconnection because we look at it as an end. We are taught through religion and spiritual beliefs that, especially certain religions, that it's the end. This is it. It's over. And then you will either be judged for this or you'll be judged for that. And if you don't walk this fine line, and this stresses people out. This stresses people out so much. You have to learn to walk away from that. You have to learn that, man has created a lot of things that aren't true in this world. And just like how we all believe that the world was flat, and some people still do, and that let's just say, for argument's sake, that the world is round, and there is proof of that. But we all believed at one time the world was flat, and we knew it. We knew it, and we killed people because it was God. We knew it. God said the world was flat. And then advancements came in technology. We started, doing satellites and going to space. And then we realized, oh my God, the planet's round. So we have to look at it in that sense. And I want you to open up your mind, because, one of the biggest questions I always get is, will I get judged for the things I do? And I'm going to tell you absolutely no. You do not get judged for the things you do. Why? Because if you understand, when you heard my show, The Age of All Souls, what did I talk about? We talked about spiritual contracts, right? And we talked about all these ideas coming back and forth, and you planning your life. And so if we have these spiritual contracts that we write up ourselves, and we're purposely putting those ideas in it so that we can act like that, then how can we be punished? We'll be right back after these messages from the life of Raina.
A message from the life of Raina. We live in a world faced with many tough challenges. Our lives become chaotic and filled with disaster ever so quickly, most of the time before we even realize. Our issues beat down our mental mindset, and an imbalance of emotions become prevalent. The life of Raina is dedicated to helping people on the deepest spiritual level. Miss Raina, the creator of Transcendental Development and Growth, works on your core issues and finds the solutions which allow you to break free from the emotional bondages of life, helping you achieve the life you've always wanted to live. Isn't it time that you lived life for you? Call the Life of Raina, 561-846-2190. and schedule your appointment today. That's 561-846-2190. Or email thelifeofraina@icloud.com.
Okay, everyone, we are back. You're listening to Miss Raina on Transcendental Transformations. Today's topic is the light beyond life. What happens to us as we transition? Right before we went to the break, I was talking about ideas and attachments. Pain, suffering is the human mind. When it's the human experience. When we are here, we believe in pain and suffering. We experience pain and suffering, and this is just a human idea. This idea that we have that is punishable, that pain and suffering is going to carry through us and even into the next life or wherever we go, the other side, is an idea that we have to learn to disregard. We have to learn to walk away from it. Belief that death is permanent is an idea that is also soon. If we talk about this whole transition, this whole spiritual growth of all these ideas that, the 2012 experience of global consciousness waking up, that people are starting to wake up and stuff. Well, if we are starting to wake up, then you realize that life is infinite. That life, whether we shed these human bodies or we're, in another body in a different planet or a different solar system and stuff, life is infinite. And we have to be able to do that because, I've been back tens of thousands of times. I know Chad's been back many, many times himself, and Dean has, and everybody else. And that is life how it is. The young adult souls have to believe in these ideas. The younger in spirituality you are, the younger in the age of all souls you are, like I said, the harder you stick to these ideas of religion, spirituality, these ideas of politics, all these things, because we hold on to these ideas as truth. And a lot of times we don't have the spiritual maturity to understand. And when we have fear, when we have judgment, when we have any form of judgment or my no-no words coming into play, that shows that we need to open up and grow in that sense. The old souls, when you start to get older, I was talking to one of my students today, and one of their problems was they can't slow down. They weren't able to do, and they were thinking, well, I'm this age and I need to get to this goal by this time and everything, like we're running out of time. And you know what the funny thing is when we look at life like we have only so many years. And and I joke around with people. I say, from the first day you're born, you begin to transition because your days are numbered. The first day you're born is the maximum days you're going to have in this lifetime, and then from there it's a countdown. And the old souls start to realize this. They start to look at things and they start to realize things, past things start to come up. And and you have to remember that life has to deal with both sides. Just because you are here, that doesn't mean that, obviously we have things to learn here, but just because you are here doesn't mean that when you transition that you have nothing to do on the other side. So let me throw out this idea for you. There's this idea of conscious thought. What if I told you, what if I said that right now you're experiencing, even though you're listening to me, you're in your room or your office or wherever you're at, what if I said to you that this whole experience is happening inside your head? What if I said that this whole experience was happening inside your head of you that's literally on the other side, and a conscious thought is creating this reality of life? Would you be open to that? Would you understand that? Would you think that could be possible? Or would you say, nope, life is real because I breathe. If I pinch myself, I feel. But what if consciousness was able to create something so amazingly? What if we truly didn't understand life? What if we were so young in our growth of history, of human evolution, that these ideas of consciousness and what even consciousness represents, what if we don't know enough? What if we don't have the spiritual maturity to understand what's truly going on? And that's the fear, isn't it? Because whenever someone came to me for mediumship or any readings, anything I did, even healing work or anything, the number one fear is, I need to get all this done by this time. It was always a clock. It was always a race. And I looked at this and I say, look, you have all the time in the world. And this is something as an ancient soul we understand. Yes, I was in those lifetimes where I was so go that I thought I was running out of time because I believed that there was an end. And there is no end. A circle has no beginning and no end. So what like the question, what hatched first, the chicken or the egg? It's a circle. It's a circle of life. It has no beginning. It has no egg. I mean, no end, not egg. It is an egg. It has no end. And, and this is the thought process. This is what consciousness is. It's an energy that has no beginning, has no end. It just is. And because of that, it is able to create, and we are able to create what it is we want. And so this idea of transition, this thing, I mean, what happens to us? What happens to us when we start to cross over? We always talk about this experience of this big, bright white light that we always see. Yes, that is 100% true. When you pop out of this body and you pop out, you rise up. It's not a throwing, it's not a thrust. You just rise out of it. And the next thing, if something happens, you could be standing by your body, you could be floating above it, you can be doing whatever. You can just be around. And instantly, and I will tell you this, instantly, as much fear as you have going into this, even if you are involved in a violent way of going out, it is instantaneously, and the moment you disconnect, there is no pain. There is no suffering. And you know what? There is no fear of, oh my God, I'm dead. There's no fear of that. You are instantly surrounded by love. That white light that you see is the projection of the transition that you're going from one consciousness to another, and it instantly reminds you that you are perfectly safe and loved. It is the most wonderful feeling. Being here, it is impossible to describe that feeling. If I ask you to take your most happiest moment, the most happiest moment in your entire life, and times that by 1,000,000, I still wouldn't even touch it. And why is that? Because we don't have the concept of that idea. We lose it through fear. Our fear is replaced by love. It's replaced by acceptance. And as we get pulled, because we get pulled, there's an energy that pulls us. There's that where we go to, and we're able to just know. And I think this is one of the things that makes people, at least in my experience, people always seem to sit there and say, oh, so as soon as we disconnect from this body, because where are we connected from this body first? We are connected at the solar plexus, right? We are connected at the belly button. That's where life is fed through, even in this physical form, and that's where we are connected, and that's where we disconnect. So when we disconnect from there, absolutely, we have no human experience left. We do not fear the things we do. And so when we see this light, it's not scary. We understand we understand that we're no longer. And as we get pulled towards this light, we start to see shadows. And we're not in a tunnel, we're not in this thing, it's just an area. And when we get to this idea, or when we get closer to this, we see all these little shadows and stuff, and then we realize, guess who's waiting for us? It is our family. It's our family, our friends, of everyone that has passed before us. And they are there, and it's like a big party. It is a big welcoming party for you. And let me tell you something, you feel safe, you feel loved. Sometimes in the middle of a transition, yes, there might, especially if it's been hectic or crazy, especially if it was sudden or pretty horrific and stuff, sometimes there will be a transition period that will happen, and we'll get into that in a second. But those are the type of things that will happen. And so when we have these family, I mean, imagine, do you love the fact, like even in this lifetime, when you go visit your house, do you love the fact when everybody says, oh my God, hey, blah, 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 and everyone welcomes you, you hug each other and stuff? Because I know when I go back home, I love seeing my mom, I love seeing my family and friends and stuff, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy to feel welcomed. And doesn't it make you feel happy to feel welcomed too? So why would we not welcome each other? Because we are a part of something greater. We are a part of this big circle of family that we have. And they welcome us. They welcome us. We understand what happened. We understand that we're no longer living. And after the welcoming part happens, the next is life review. The life review is the thing that transitions us from, let's say, Miss Raina, to who I am as a soul. because this idea of Miss Raina only lasts while I'm here. This idea of who I am or who you are only lasts until that thing. And then you shed this idea. So when people ask me as a medium, they always say, okay, well, when people come to me, they come to me as the person knows, or the person knew them back in the day. So if they died 10 years ago, those people would remember them, how they looked 10 years ago, and that's how they would appear. That doesn't mean that that's how they look over there, but they have to do that in order for us to understand, because that's what we know. That is our limited consciousness. And so our life review always is about 3 to 6 months. And more than likely it's closer to 6 months than 3, but I always say 3 to 6 months. And basically what do? We sit in a room and we watch a big screen. It looks like a big screen TV. And we watch our whole life from beginning to end. We watch every second from the time that we are born to the time that we transition back back home. And we watch everything and we look at everything and we say, okay, what is it that I need to understand? What is it that I learned? What is it that I understand? What is it that I didn't understand? What is it that I didn't get done? Because you pull out your piece of paper like I have here and you look at your life review and you say, okay, well, this is my life. Everything comes back the way life truly is. We shed our beliefs no matter what it is. We understand that how everything works. And so we look and say, okay, without judgment, because I know a lot of us are always saying, oh my God, Miss Raina, really? We have to watch our own life and all the stupid things I've did or this, and we smack ourselves in embarrassment. Yes. But we don't have that judgment. And you have to understand that. We have to understand that when we watch ourselves, that we watch ourselves with an open mind. We watch ourselves with an open idea. And there is no punishment. I know that some of you may have a hard time with that. You may think that, oh, how can someone, because we all go to the same place. Every single one of us goes to the same place. And we may think, well, whether you're Mother Teresa or a mass murderer, and you know what, let me tell you something, that's the number one thing most people fight with me with. They sit there and say, what do you mean there's no punishment? How can there not be punishment? If this person did this and this person did what was wrong, and then how are they not getting punished? How are they not doing this? And if I was good, why am I not getting rewarded? Well, that doesn't sound very spiritual. That doesn't sound very spiritual and mature, does it? Oh, well, I did this, and so I should get rewarded, and they did this, so they should get punished. No, because each person, remember, everyone here has a role to play. Every person here is a character. I'm a character, you're a character, Chad's a character. Every single person here has a character. They have a role to play. And like I said, when we were talking about that in the last show, it was very hard for people to understand that idea, because we have been so conditioned and so trained to say there's good, bad, right, wrong, positive, negative, backwards, forwards, better, worse, that there should be, would be, could be's. We are so conditioned to that idea, to judge others, to shame others, to do all these different things, that if we don't walk this fine line, because this is a fine line of control, we have to have some control on society. But the other side we don't do that. We don't look at that. We write our lives and we say, hey, look, oh, okay, this was the role I came to play. And this was what I was here to do. Why should you be judged for if you write your own character? If you were an actor or an actress and you wrote a character and or you wrote a play and some of your friends played the villains and some of your friends played, at the end of the play, would the ones that played the villains go to a bad place and the other ones get rewarded? No, because it was a role that they were playing. And this is the same concept. You must learn to understand that. And so when you're doing your life review, you're analyzing everything and you're saying, okay, now I see things for what they truly are, because now I don't have a belief system anymore. I don't have an ego. The ego is temporarily resolved because we don't have the ego. They're only over here. And now I see, oh, when I got into a fight this time, when I did this, oh, you know what, that person really was telling the truth, or this happened. And we see it. We truly see it, and we have to let it go. And if there's something that we didn't understand, then that's when we say, you know what? Okay, for our next lifetime, this is something that I have to continue working on. In order for, as a lot of people like to say, progression or regression, even though there's no such thing, in order for my progression, and I need to be able to continue learning this thing. That's why we have this this idea that, that we come back and we do the same things. Oh, if we kill ourselves, that we come back in the same thing until we get it right. No, that's farther from the truth too. There's a little bit of truth in that, but a lot of it is so one of the hardest things that I did, or I used to do when I did professional mediumship, was doing readings for parents, especially parents that had lost a child. Because when you do a reading and they're going to you, you know what they really expect? They expect that child or that loved one to be sitting in that chair with you. They expect to walk in your house or walk in your office and see the medium and have that child there, especially parents with that have lost their children. Losing a child is the hardest out of is one of the hardest life lessons, because people never get over it. It's one of those things that I've seen over and over and over. And no matter how much I communicate with someone, even if I'm 100% accurate with something, I feel like it just sometimes exacerbates their pain. And why? Because they're knowing that the child is so close, but they can't touch him, they can't see him, they can't smell him, and they can't hear him. And that's tough. That is really, really tough. So if we look at spiritual agreements and our spiritual agreements, and we realize that we have these contracts, that we have these, and that we don't wish, that we have these ideas that we have to continually work for, then we understand that we can release that idea of judgment towards each other. And so, like, like I said, when my dad came probably about 6 months ago. I was watching, I was at home watching a WWE. Yes, I'm an avid wrestling fan. I was watching a WWE pay-per-view, and back in the day, it was CM Punk fighting John Cena for the championship in Chicago. And the main event came on, and as soon as CM Punk music hit on, all of a sudden I felt this brush against my back, and my lights went on in my house, not just like the ones you have to turn on and everything. And I just knew, and I knew my dad was back, and it was exactly 6 months from the time. It was, and I just knew. And I told my mom, I was like, "Hey, Mom, just letting you know, Dad's back around." And you know what? And you would think that she would be happy, but no, she was hurt. She was hurt. Well, why didn't he come see me? Why did he come see you first? And I said, "Well, I don't know, Mom. I don't know." But I knew. I knew, because when we are in pain, when we lose someone, we are in so much emotional pain that we can't hear or see. Our vibration, when we are emotional, when we are angry, upset, when we are surrounded by our ego, we are in such a low vibration that it is impossible to ever hear or communicate to the other side at all. That's why people who meditate, people who do transcendental work or anything like that, that's why they can have those experiences, because they're raising their vibration. They're raising their vibration, because let me tell you something. Because I do what I do does not make me any special. Every single one of you has this capability. The only difference between me and you is, one, I believe in myself, and two, I spend the time to do what's necessary for my body to maintain that connection. How many of you meditate? How many of you eat healthy, take care of your body? And I know I've been having health problems myself due to supplements and stuff, but I still meditate, I still eat healthy, I still make sure my waters are all pure and this and that, and the mineral supplementation. I still do those things, and I try to get a good night's sleep, and even that disrupts me. My sleep habits disrupt me too. But I will say getting back to my mom and dad really quick, I will say that my mom just recently, and I'm so proud of her, just recently she called me and she said, Raina, you're never going to believe what just happened to me. And I said, what, Mom? What happened to you? And I still have a grin on my face right now. And she said, I was sitting in the couch watching TV, and I went to get up, and I turned, and your father was sitting on the couch. He was sitting on the edge with his bare shirt, had his hand in his clicker, and he was sitting there staring at me. And I saw him so clearly. And I just almost started crying, because you know why? Because for 5 years, I've had to hear my mom and even my dad coming at me, tell your mom to listen, tell your mom she's not listening to me, I'm trying to communicate with her. And that because she was so emotional, so much in pain that she couldn't raise that vibration. It took her 5 years to disconnect from some of the pain so my dad can jump in and show her, saying, hey, I'm around. And let me tell you something, I could hear it in her voice, how ecstatic she was that dad finally came to her, that she was able to finally, and I was so proud of her, because you know what that meant? That meant that she was resolving her pain and emotional chaos just a little bit. Just enough, even for a split second, to be able to raise our vibration, to see something, or to have a communication, or to have an experience is life-changing. And you know what my mom said? Because my mom was raised Catholic as I was and everything. And she was sitting there, she said, she's like, I don't even believe, she's like, and she had a little bit of, Buddhism beliefs and everything too. She's like, everything I thought, she's like, I don't even believe that there's life out over on the other side, because I used to have all these experiences with all, and then my husband, your father, can't even come to me. And she was on the breaking point. But in that day, she was having a healthier day. And just in that moment, it was right. It was perfect. It was amazing. And I guarantee you that point starts the healing process. So why does that point start the healing process? Why do we search so much for these experiences? Why does it mean so much for us to have these experiences? Because, if we look at, let me get into suicides really quick, and then I'll answer that question back. But let's take suicides for a minute, because we're talking about the transitions. So if we have someone that has suicide, right away we are taught that they go to an awful place, or they're punished, or they're in limbo, or they're in this, and that's farther from the truth. That's farther from the truth. I've had the same contact with suicides just as fast as the same as someone who passed peacefully in the night. And that kind of thing does not matter. And so when we have these ideas that we're going to be punished for this, and that we have to step back, because how would we feel if we're a parent? If you're a parent and you've lost a child, are these some of your beliefs? Do you believe that your child is being punished for an eternity because of this? That would be silly. Even let's just say some religions and some spirituality were correct in the sense of there is someone watching us and judging us. If something so great and something so powerful that created everything the way they wanted to, how could that folly? How can that be a mistake? How could anybody be a mistake, or do a mistake, or sin against something so great? It doesn't make sense. How can you believe in an idea of these things? And suicide is the same thing. How can you believe that it's wrong? And we look at suicide, oh, that's stupid, that's a coward's way. No, it's not, because let me tell you something. People who suffer in pain every day, people who are emotionally, mentally distraught, people who are just, people who aren't in those situations don't understand what those people are going through. And how dare you judge someone else for, maybe that's their only way. I know some people that are so much pain and cancer that the cancer is eating away their body, and their only relief, no prescription pills give them relief. Their only relief is that. Are you going to judge them for that? Because technically that's suicide. Are you going to judge them for, they have cancer. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. And to sit there and say, that's their role. They were meant to commit suicide so that their soul can understand. And in all death, in all transition, in everything we do, those are lessons not just for that person, but for everyone else involved. Maybe that person has to commit suicide so that they can teach their parents and their siblings how to learn with transition, to come to a deeper understanding of their life and to do that, because sometimes we do. Sometimes we take the role of something so horrifically like that just so we can solely teach other people. It has nothing to do with us sometimes, just that we want to teach mom, dad, sister, aunts, and uncles to do this, this, and this. Because you know how many people throughout my career already have come to me and said, I want my brother back, or I want my sister, or I want my friend back, but you know what? They taught me something. I've learned so much from that experience. I understand things differently. I used to be so chaotic. I heard some people, I used to be wild and crazy and partying, and then this happened, and then it changed my life, and they projected and they became successful in this, and they decided to go a different route. Sometimes those things have to happen. But when we're looking in judgment, when you're judging because you've been told an idea by somebody else, when you've been told, throughout your life that this is the way life is, and that you're going to judge someone because that's all you know. You have a book, you have books and papers that say, oh, well, this is life. Well, if it's in a book, it must be true. If someone told it to me, if it's on the internet, it must be true. I don't know how many medical articles that I even read that I look and I say, okay, well, this doesn't sound right, or it maybe sound right, but hey, you know what? I'm not going to have an opinion on this yet, because and just because I hear something over and over and over doesn't mean it's true, because even in the medical profession, we have things that are passed down that are way outdated, that just don't make any sense. And you're just like, how is this still going through? How do people still believe it? Because we are conditioned not to question out of fear. I hope that this show will, even if it bothers you, I understand that what I talk about sometimes offends people, and I'm sorry that you're offended. It is not my job to offend you. It is my job to teach you. And I hope that with a little bit of that you just take some of my words and listen to what I have to say. Because you know what? Our lives do not have to be painful. They do not have to suffer. We don't have to be angry with one another. And when transition happens, we don't have to suffer. I miss my dad physically, yes, but I talk to him all the time. I see him, I hear him. My grandparents, even my friends we were at the softball field just a little bit right before the show, and my friend turns to me and said, oh my God, Raina, I saw someone in your car. It was a female. I know that was either my grandma or my aunt, because my grandma, my Aunt Vera, and my dad always travel with me every single time. And she doesn't consider herself to be psychic or everything, but because she was in that moment of raised vibration, she was able to see that somebody else was following with me. And what a wonderful thing it is. What a wonderful way to have that we know that there's light beyond the life. It truly is amazing, people, when we look at things. And honestly, we are running out of time. I have so much more to talk about, but you know what? I am going to leave it up to you. I think there's a lot of information that needs to be soaked in. I know sometimes our ego will battle with us, and I don't want you just to instantly believe me, but I also don't want you to instantly reject me. Take time, figure things out, learn at your own pace. But I'm telling you from experience that when you look at life in a sense that there is no beginning, no end, and there's no end, like death is not something to be feared. We learn that our lives are just amazing. All right, everybody, that is tonight's show. I think I'm actually a few minutes early, but that's okay. I'm going to go home and kind of rest and shower up. I'm all sweaty. So if you'd like to follow us, you can follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. That's all one word. Make sure you check out our archive on youtube.com/Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Visit my website, soulandspiritguide.com. Sign up for the newsletter to receive VIP access to hidden shows and special guests when we have guests. If you have any questions about this show, other shows, feel free to write me at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com, and make sure you visit the w4cy.com website. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you and have a great day.
Oh.